A lot of Golden State Warriors and San Antonio Spurs news. They played last night, but amongst that, Bill Simmons was talking on his podcast about general management and whether they're lucky or smart, but none of it is as important as this video of Steph Curry as a cheerleader in NBA 2K. That gets me every time.
I think I've showed you it 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah,
every time
LeBron's in it too. Iguodala's in it too. Curry's in it.
All-Star
Harden's in it. I mean, that's the best cheerleading squad I have ever seen.
That would sell out. That would sell out the stadium.
Basketball skill. All right, but to the actual news. Spurs played their starters against the Warriors on Thursday. It was again an extremely anticipated matchup of, at this point in the season, the 2 best regular season teams according to 538 and ELO ratings we've ever seen. And guess what? The same thing happens on Sunday when the Warriors and Spurs meet again. But the big questions going into it was Greg Popovich going to start the majority of his starters? He did. LaMarcus Aldridge got off to a very good start, flexing his mid-range game, but actually left the game for a little bit of time because he dislocated his finger going up for a layup that was blocked by Bogut, hit the bottom of the backboard. God, these guys, you see the bone in the wrong place, and they just go, "Coach!" and then they go back in. It's crazy to me. Kobe's done it before, too. I've seen many players do it. But the Warriors had no trouble handling the Spurs in that game. In the first quarter, it was a little bit back and forth, but it wasn't long before the Warriors ripped off a 14-0 run, and they didn't really have to look back. They handled each quarter. They had the lead after each quarter, except for the fourth where they fell a little bit, not behind to the Spurs in actual score, but in terms of just the fourth quarter alone, the Spurs made a little bit of a comeback. And now it puts everything into even some more context in terms of this record. The Warriors and Spurs play again on Sunday. I mentioned that. And the Spurs will be going for a perfect home record. The Warriors would need that win, barring a win the night before, Saturday, against the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis, to overtake the Bulls or have a shot at overtaking the Bulls' 72-10 record. Now, even more context, Francis. Steve Kerr seems to be a little bit back and forth on what he wants to do in terms of rest. And the players obviously want to gun for the record. Here's what Steve Kerr had to say, at least in terms of resting. We're going to talk about it Friday, which is today, so we're shooting. We've been putting it off for as long as we were able to, which was until we got the 1 seed. Now that we have that, I'm inclined to give some guys some rest if they need it, but I've sort of made a pact with the guys that if they're not banged up and they're not tired, and if they want to go for this record or whatever then, so we've got to talk. Any part of you, Francis, believe that maybe Steve Kerr was on the 95-96 Bulls? Any part of you believe maybe we need to rest these guys? I can't give up my record.
I would hope not, if it was a coach. And I mean, I think he wants that team, obviously, to obtain the record. But it would be funny if he had that ulterior motive. I mean, this is what we said. What made this Spurs, but they are great. But this made this Golden State Warriors team great. Is that when they were pursuing the consecutive win streak at the start of the season, they had it firmly within their grasp, and they were not taking anything for granted. They were going out to win every game as emphatically as they can, and everyone was like, this team are unbeatable, they're unstoppable, and I think it played into each player's game. Each player upped their game each night because they knew they had that ulterior motive. Everyone wants to win, but Golden State, when they have that fire in their eye and they have that target, I think other teams are frightened of them. I think they're petrifying when they especially when they heat up and they have that goal in mind. And now we came to the end of the season where we see some games where fatigue was playing a huge role in some of their losses. Other teams did play well, but specifically against New Orleans, I thought they looked really tired. But again, this team's character are second to none. Last night, you could tell that they wanted to maintain how dominant they've been, specifically at home. But again, it's just basically, for me, it could not be written any better for them pursuing the record. Because I hope, it's not an easy game against Memphis. I hope they discard in Memphis so that they continue to pursue it. But then the Spurs, as if they didn't need enough of a motive to try and hinder their run, they're trying to protect their home record. Yeah. And they have the Spurs traveling, they have Golden State traveling to the Spurs to pursue the overall record. It just sets up for a mouth-watering tail end of the season game, which I usually, by this point, I'm switched out and I'm looking just
to the playoffs.
And I think that it provides such a different level to this game, which is going to be interesting because now, as I know we're going to talk about, is what does Pop do? Is he going to play his starters and potentially get blown out?
I think on his home court he's going to play his starters, or at least the majority of them. And it just depends on what the Warriors want to do. First of all, to put this into 70 wins in a season is so unbelievable that I didn't think we'd see it again. Just because when you look at the game logs of at least the Bulls, and now you look at the Warriors, even if they were to lose out the season, the second team in history to ever get to 70 wins. It's remarkable. And it also mocks, in a way, the 95-96 season, because people forget that the Seattle Supersonics, who met the Chicago Bulls in the finals, and they lost in 6 games, set a franchise record with 64 wins, which is another unbelievable achievement to get to 64 wins, and put together one of the better teams we've seen in the last 25 years. Yep, that's the right math, 25 years. And the Spurs are playing that role, but the Spurs are even better than that Supersonics team was. They're arguably as good as that Bulls team was, and arguably as good as this Warriors team is. And a couple people said that we don't give enough credit to the Spurs, but undoubtedly, I learned a long time ago, you never count out Greg Popovich. You never count out the Spurs. 2003, Spurs go into the playoffs, and we're like, I don't know. And they win the fucking NBA Finals. 2005, they win the NBA Finals. 2007, they win the NBA Finals. And then they were a part of the most lopsided NBA Finals in history when they beat the Heat. 4 games in a 5-game series. You can't count them out. And for whatever reason, no matter the age they have on their vets, and Duncan, who is like the 156th highest paid player in the league. I mean, this is Tim Duncan we're talking about, compared to Kobe, at least it was $20 million. Their age, their veteran experience now mixed with Danny Green hitting open threes again. Thank God, the guy's an unbelievable sharpshooter.
I think it was all part of his game plan. To start off rough,
He's a mastermind,
have people underestimate him, and he could be the difference maker going into the playoffs. But the Spurs are unfortunately, they're the Ronaldo to the Messis. They're I would say the Djokovic to Federers for a while. Like, it's like they're performing their best. They are, in any other world, viewed as the best, but they're just running alongside a team which is just pursuing a different level of greatness. And as we were talking to a Spurs fan last night, no matter how much credit they get, they still don't get enough. But it's understandable because everyone's drawn to the team that's kind of that trailblazer. But the Spurs, best record in their franchise history. Right. And it would not surprise anyone, I don't think, in the world of basketball if they were to go on and win it all.
I'm looking up real quick because the Spurs have 65 wins. So they have a chance also at finishing with 67, 68 wins, which is ridiculous. And we want that Western Conference Finals. Dan wants the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. The rest of the world wants the Warriors and the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. Simmons was discussing, on top of everything, that the Warriors owner is basically the guy at the blackjack table the deck is hot, and he keeps getting great hand, blackjack after blackjack, so he starts bragging about how much money he's winning and how great he is at blackjack when the inner circle of these owners probably don't like that. Have a listen.
It took balls to fire Mark Jackson. Like the media loved Mark Jackson, and they were going to defend him no matter what happened. He had so many cronies just placed all over the place. So that was not going to be a popular decision. And then I thought it took balls not to trade Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. Like that was a really smart non-trade by them. Other than that, they bought a team that was in the sixth or seventh biggest market in the United States and really is the centerpiece of Silicon Valley. And I think now there's a lot of people who are there, a lot of rich people who are like, shit, I should have bought the Warriors. I blew that one. So I'm sure he's feeling himself with that.
I'm sure there's many people who think that now, but it's just like, so many things came together there. I mean,
a lot of things.
Okay, hiring Kerr was great, but like,
it was great.
Everybody sort of concedes that Popovich, clearly the best coach in the NBA. But then again, Kerr played for him. In many ways, seems like him, except a little more or considerably more media friendly and younger. Maybe a little closer to what's happening. I mean, he might be the best coach in the league. He just hasn't coached long enough to prove it.
He's like if Phil Jackson and Popovich had a baby, because he played for both of them. They had a coach baby. He's Steve Kerr.
And they've had, they got these guys playing these strange positions who are also really intense, and it just, a lot of things sort of worked out in this way.
That's another lucky thing. Like Draymond falls to 37. Now they're smart enough to take him.
So a lot we discussed in this clip. The quick recap: Steph Curry as a cheerleader, fantastic. Warriors versus Spurs. Both teams started their starters. Warriors got the better of them this time. and whether the Jet management is lucky and or smart. Comment below with what you think about all of that. Make sure to follow at Francis_Maxwell on Twitter and Francis Maxwell Host on Instagram, JasonRubin91 for both, and at TYT Sports on Twitter, Facebook.com/TYT Sports. We're unwatchable. We're on every other platform we can think of. We'll see you next week.